Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Black Millennial Wife. I'm Jet, and today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, how's everybody doing? This is LaRon Tryon. Just a brief introduction of myself. I'm 36 years old. I have a business with me and my mom. We have a business by the name of Dapper Sense that we sell like suit accessories. Outside of that, I'm also a part-time model influencer for different suit lines. Most Black-owned business owners. With those suit lines, it's basically like a whole networking stage that we have that we've created. Most of the time that I influence their suits, they also come through us for their accessories for like their weddings, if they have to style somebody for like for a prom, for any kind of ball or anything of that nature. So it's kind of keeping everything within that nucleus and just kind of making sure that we help one another reach other levels for our business and things of that nature.
Awesome. Well, there is our Black business highlight. So if you're in the market for suits and suits accessories, please go check out Dapper Sense, and we will have that linked in the description box below. There is this conversation around single men, single women who want to be married. So there are all these platforms out there for women teaching women how to prepare in order to be wives. And in doing research, I will like look through comments of all of these YouTube videos, Instagram videos, all of these things. And I see a lot of women saying, there are so many people out there trying to prepare us for marriage, but are there any men who are truly preparing for marriage? And I mean, we can sit and speculate and talk about it like all day long, but I was like, why not have a conversation with a man and see if that's really truly the case? So my first question to you is, number one, do you want to be married?
Of course.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you want to be married. I now want to ask you, are you doing things to prepare for your role as a husband? And if so, could you tell me what are some things that you are doing to prepare? And
Oh
if
yeah.
not, why not?
Okay. That's a real good question. So yes, of course, for me, I am putting myself in position to, of course, be the best husband you can be. So for me, growing up, like I've had, like my father, he pretty much showed how to be a man in a marriage, like how to provide, how to protect, and things of that nature. However, I think the most important thing is to kind of build your own experience, because I think if you think about the norm for men is to make sure that we provide for our family, protect our family, and just be there for them. However, there are so many other different things that us as men we have to come to grips with and realize it's so much more than just providing and protecting. Like we have to be emotionally available for our family. We have to lead our family like down a religious path. So to your original question, that's kind of where I'm coming in at. I'm more or less looking at or building myself to be, for one, like very religious, be a kingdom man. If you read the Bible says that men are supposed to lead their families to that place of righteousness. So that's kind of like that's my primary focus is just to make sure that when my time does come to be that man to that woman, I want to make sure I'm that man to that woman, that man to my kids, making sure that I'm leading them to God at the end of the day. Also, like from an emotional standpoint, like I said, we have so many different men that struggle with being emotionally available. Like we always feel like we have to mask our emotions. We feel like we always have to be strong. When realistically, I think for men, we're at our best when we're able to be emotionally available.
Mm,
Like when, especially when it comes to our families, like in our wives. Like our wives want somebody that uh, I want to. She want to have a man that shows that he's emotionally available to her, that can, like I say, voice his concerns, voice his opinions, and even be able to like shed tears around it, like stuff like that. We have to like train ourselves to be that. So I think for me that would probably be my two main things. I mean, of course, outside of like providing and protecting, but like being a kingdom man and being emotionally available for family is like my two main focus.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I say that because in my experience with my husband, he was one of those men who weren't in touch with his emotions. And so it would drive me crazy that something would hurt me or make me angry. But like he's just so even kill. And so I know
Yeah.
you have emotions. I know you feel something, like show
Right.
something, and to know that that's something that you're conscious of. That's something I hope a lot of men learn how to be conscious of before they get into a relationship, because as a wife, you need to be able to see those different, and you want to be able to see those different sides of your husband.
Right.
So that's very good that those are some things that you're focusing on. So would you say, if you think about your friend group, your other single friends, guy friends, would you say that there is a high majority of them who are looking to be married, actually actively preparing to be married? Or would you say it's more so fewer and far between, and you have more friends who are kind of just living and whatever happens, happens, but they do want to be married?
Yeah, I think at this point, as I analyze my friend groups that are not currently in marriages, I think they're more or less just kind of living life right now, and not really looking. I'm not gonna say they don't want to be married, but I can't say that's the main focus of theirs right now. For me, my mentality is a little different because, like I said, I've been engaged before, so like just knowing that I had the feelings to go that route, I like I say, one day have a dream of going back down that route and finishing the job, of course. I think, like I say, my friends that are single, I think they're constantly like training themselves up, like to be better men, in different areas, regardless if it's financially, mentally, whatever the case may be. But like I said, I can't say that marriage is a main focus of theirs at this point in time.
Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in that, and we're gonna go
Yeah.
right on back since you brought it up. So
Mhm.
you said that you have been engaged before.
Yeah.
Okay, would you be willing to share why you have been engaged before and are no longer engaged?
Yeah. So for us, I think at that particular time, it was so much more that we had to learn, um, more so about ourselves. At that time, like I say, that we were riding the engagement wave for so long, and it was more or less just looking at focusing on planning the wedding, focusing on after the wedding, that we didn't take the time to actually build ourselves up to get to that point. And more specifically, religion. I mean, religion was a conversation for us at that point, but it wasn't like a main focus as it should have been.
Mhm.
Uh, and another thing that I struggle with per se was communication. Like I said, I've always been somewhat of a decent communicator, but at that particular time, communication wasn't one of my strong points to be able to voice different things that I had issues with, different things that I felt she may have needed to work on, different things I needed to work on. And just like I say, just being available to voice different things. So I would say probably at that particular time it was their religious aspect, because like if you don't have God in the situation, like the situation is gonna it's sooner or later it's gonna fail. I mean, it's not gonna go how you want it to go. So that was probably the main issue that we were able to identify as to why it did not work out.
Okay. So how long did y'all date before you got engaged?
Um, I want to say a good 6 to 8 years, I believe.
6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
So this is part of your college
Hmm.
experience. So my question would be, why? Because you said you're 36, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at that
Yeah.
age, huh?
I'll go ahead.
No, okay, so at that age, you were, how old were you 8 years ago? I don't do math.
28.
28. Okay, so you're almost 30. And do you
Mhm.
know at this time that you want to be married? Like around 28,
Um,
you know that you wanted to be married?
yeah, I think at 28, I knew I wanted to be married. I just didn't know when I would get to that point.
Okay, gotcha. So okay, so take me back, take me back. How old were you when you started dating her?
Let me see. We started dating in 2009. No, take that back. It was 2010.
Okay, so you guys started dating in 2010. and got engaged in 2018. So about 8 years that you guys
Yeah.
have been. My question would be, why did it take 8 years for you to decide if you wanted to marry her?
Um, for us, it was like I said, a lot of going back and forth. Um, and then too, I think for me, I just had to get to that point of like maturity and
Okay.
to realize, okay, this is the direction that we're going to go essentially. I mean, of course, there was different roadblocks that we had in the midst of the relationship that we had to work through. That kind of like strung the situation along. But like I say, once that maturity kicked in, and then I started realizing that I kind of changed my focus, changed the direction that I'm heading in, and kind of like what I want to focus on and where I want to be in life. That's kind of where my mind switched to say, okay, well, I have to start preparing myself like for that point. And then of course, like for us, like when it comes to being married, you don't want it to be a scenario to where you're saying, well, I'm with this person, so I might as well just go ahead and get engaged to this person. We
Mm.
look at different qualities within that person. Sometimes I think the thing is sometimes it takes men a while to get to that point to where they are start identifying those qualities, and it's
Mhm.
nothing with the per se. It's just for us to start opening our eyes and actually seeing that.
Why?
So like I
Expand on that. Why does it take you guys so long?
Oh, so like I was going to say, they always say that women mature faster than men. For men, we have that stage where we constantly want to play, we constantly want to be, might well say, we constantly want to be boys. You can't really say that we're men at that point if we're still want to like play and do our own thing, which was the case. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say, well, I just didn't know what direction. I mean, I still wanted to live life at the end of the day, and like mentally, I was not at that point. But once I did get to that point, granted it did take a while. Then that's where I decided to actually say, okay, well, I want to start preparing myself for that engagement. But yeah, it's just I think it's more or less a maturity thing. Just us wanting to like live our life how we want to live our life and not wanting to be tied down. As harsh as it may sound, that's the reality of it.
That's real. I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that. So now that you're 36 and you're not in a
Hmm.
relationship and you do desire to be married, do you hear a
Hmm.
clock ticking? Do you hear like subconsciously this clock ticking, like my time is coming, like I need this to happen sooner? Because as women, of course, we
Yeah.
hear clocks ticking. So I'm interested in knowing, do men, you specifically, do you hear a clock ticking when it comes to being married?
I think originally I did. Like whenever I got engaged the first time, I think I somewhat heard a clock ticking, only because, like I say, we had been in that situation so long. But I think the biggest eye opener for me is when the situation did not happen how we thought it was going to be. I just had to realize that it was going to be on God's timing, and realize that I mean, of course, I can say, okay, well, let's go ahead and plan this, let's plan that. But ultimately, like if it's not done on God's timing and according to God's will, it's not going to happen. So, to your original question, saying, do I hear a clock ticking? I really don't, because at this point, I just look at it as God has something in store for me whenever it's time for me to actually walk down that aisle, to actually put together a wedding, it'll happen. And then, like I say, in the meantime, the biggest focus for me is just to continue to build myself up. And until I get to that point where in his eyes, like, okay, he'll say, okay, well now he's ready to be a married man. So once that happens and once he puts that in front of me, then I'll go from that point.
Okay. So go back to the pin that I put in the previous
Okay.
statement. Um, so you said that you feel like you are preparing for marriage compared
Hmm.
to your friends who you feel like are probably just mostly still living life, even though they want to be married, they're not necessarily prepping for marriage.
Yeah.
Would you say that you are an anomaly? Are you one of the few that are, from your scope of men that you know, just in general, or men that you have observed?
Hmm.
Overall, if a single woman was asking you, are there men out there who are really trying and preparing to be married? Would you say that you're an anomaly? Because me hearing this conversation from you sounds like
Hmm.
you're an anomaly. It sounds like just because of what you compared from you to your friends. It sounds like if two of my homegirls were going to go out looking, or not looking, but go out in hopes that they might run into their future husband, they're most likely
Mhm.
going to run into a man who is still out trying to live his best life and not necessarily preparing to be married. So would you say
Gotcha.
that's a true statement and you are an anomaly, or is there hope?
No, I definitely think there's hope. I mean, because like I say, what you asking me, you're asking about like my particular circle of friends. However, I do know there are dudes that I have ran into. I mean, I've had conversations with dudes all the time that I may see at church or somewhere out, like just having like a casual conversation. Even when I do photo shoots and we have like a lot of dudes that come from different places. Like I said, there's a lot of God fearing men out here that are, like I say, steady building their brand, steady building themselves up. I think it's more or less just the audiences that you ask. I think every men group is going to have a group of friends. Marriage is not their main focus, but then you're going to have some that are going to have friend groups that marriage is their main focus. I think ultimately friend groups that you have that are heavily engaged into the church life, I think that's probably where you'll find most of the men that are like focusing on like getting towards that point to where they are married. I think everything starts in church. Of course, like not saying that my friends don't go to church. It's just like it's just a different mentality.
Right.
Like I said, we have conversations about church and religion all the time, but one of the conversations we don't really talk about marriage. We don't really talk about like when are we going to get to that point to get married? Because I mean, like I said, that's a conversation that happens whenever you kind of have somebody in your life for that to take place. And then for me, I would say like something that's been golden for me is the fact that I do have quite a few married friends that I can have conversations with. One of my very good friends, he's married. Like anytime I do want to have a conversation about just kind of being a better man, just preparing myself for that point, that's where I always go to. And like I say, we can talk about 30 or 45 minutes, simply because, like I say, he gives good insight. I can be transparent. I can be upfront, and he'll do the same thing. So, but I think it's more friend groups that are more so heavily engaged in church, and you'll probably find those guys that are focused on marriage. I mean, they still live their life, of course, but their focus has changed. Like they're looking at things from a different perspective per se. And that's what happened with me. Like once I started being more heavily involved in the church and started realizing the man's role, like in a marriage, I was like, I want to be that. That's what I want to be. That's who I want to be. Like whenever I think one thing that I've always focused on is once I do get to that point, I want to be that relationship that people see and they say, hey, that's what I want to be like.
Mhm.
For younger guys that are coming up, they say, okay, that's like how did you get to that point? Like I can tell that like you're in love with your wife. I can tell that you love your wife. Like even without y'all even saying anything, just the energy that y'all have. Like I want to get to that point to be able to tell their story and say, hey, this is how you get here. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I can tell you my story, and then you can take little nuggets out of my story to build your own.
Absolutely. Literally the foundation of the Black Millennial Wife.
Yeah,
Ladies and I are not out here trying to portray that we are marriage experts. That is not the bill of goods that I am selling, because I am not.
yeah,
I just know everything that I've gone through in my almost 9 years was
mhm,
meant for me to share with somebody else to learn. So I totally,
yeah.
totally respect that. And you really just answered like 3 or 4 of my questions in that statement, because one of my questions was, do men sit around and talk about marriage? Because I know women do. Like
Yeah.
any area, in any scenario, there's some conversation that comes up either from a single person to a married person or
Mhm.
vice versa. And so that is, I think that's very insightful to know that men who are desiring marriage
Yeah.
and looking to better themselves in that way are sitting around talking about marriage.
Right.
So it's not just women, and I think that that's something that's good to know.
Yeah.
So do you feel like women age out? Like, do you feel like there's a certain point where you at 36 might get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm going to date someone who's 20, 21, instead of finding someone in your age bracket? Like, do you feel there's a point where a woman is, you know, She's
Um,
just older and you're not attracted to that age group anymore.
yeah, I think so. Like if she has so many different bad experiences within her particular age group, I think she probably will look at a different or more or a younger age group per se.
No, I want to know, do you
Oh
think
no,
as
you talking
a
to
woman,
me?
yes,
Oh yeah, no,
so
no, no.
you would be like, no, I'm not dating someone 36, 37. I need to find a 20-year-old.
Oh no, never. Yeah, at this point in time, I would not be able to date a 20-year old or a 21-year old only because their mind is not going to be in the right place. Like at that point, like with them being, because I know how I was at 20 or 21. Like I wouldn't want to date me at 20 or 21.
Hmm.
Like for me, I wouldn't go seeking some like a woman that's 20 or 21 because I mean you still have a lot of life to live. You have a lot to learn. And I think for me, don't get me wrong, I don't mind like helping somebody grow to be a better version of themselves, but I'm not here to teach you how to be mature, how to have that level of maturity. You have to have that on your own. Because the thing is, once you what dating somebody at that age, their mind has not evolved to be mature enough to have like adult conversations like about like savings, about like emotions, about like problem solving, like being able to like talk through problems. Like that takes you have to be at a certain age to have those conversations. So no, I wouldn't be able to date anybody like 2021. I think for me, I think the youngest I would go with they would have to be definitely 30, definitely in their 30s.
Yeah, you're right. That level of maturity definitely plays a big part in a relationship for sure. What expectation do you have for a woman in your relationship?
Um, so I think for me, I would want someone that has a backbone, of course. I also want somebody that is able to be a leader. I mean, of course, being a follower first, but I have to feel comfortable that like if something happens to me, like you're able to take care of things. Of course, I don't mind, like I say, leading and taking care of everything up front. But like I said, if something happens to me, I have to be confident that I know for a fact I can tell you to go do this, and I know you'll be able to get that done. Somebody that is like has a big heart, that kind of walks around and like just their energy gives off love. Like that's something that's very big to me. Because like I said, when I grew up, I was like I wouldn't say sheltered, but like all of my aunts, my mom, my grandmothers, like they all just showed like mad love. Like when I was coming up, it was almost kind of like I was like the golden child of my family. Like every time they see me, they was always hugging on me, kissing on me, and doing things of that nature. So like with me growing up, I was like, if I seen that at a younger age, I want that to continue. Just like I say, and having that feeling like somebody is into you. For me, it kind of pours into my love bucket and makes me just want to be a better husband at the end of the day. So I would say, like I say, outside of the being able to take care of business, but from an emotional standpoint, just being able to like show love 24/7, like regardless of what happens. Like if we get into it, I still want to know that you can still have that same love presence that you had that attracted me to you and made me want to marry
Mm, okay, so you said that having a backbone is
you.
something that's important to you.
Yeah.
Now let's take that a step further. And if I
Hmm.
if I were to take that phrase and say a woman that has a backbone, it kind of triggers me to think like strong, independent woman, like can handle
Hmm.
their own. Okay. Do you feel like a strong, independent woman can be toxic in a marriage or in a relationship with someone?
I think it can be toxic if it's not control. Like if she doesn't know how to control it, because
Mhm.
you know how you have some women that just want to lead, want to take over, want to be in charge. Let me run this. Let me run that. Let me run this. But you got a whole man that can do the same. That's supposed to do those things, but like you're not allowing him to be a man. 'Cause there are women out here that do not allow the man to be a man in a relationship, and it's like because I'm currently reading The Way of the Superior Man, and it talks about that all the time. So even though, to your question, we do have like women that have that backbone and want to take over everything and want to lead everything, it's also up to us to offset that. Because a lot of times the reason why women do that is because there's not enough masculine energy like in that dynamic in that relationship. like the man is giving off more feminine energy than masculine energy. So the woman feels like, okay, well, since you're not showing enough masculine energy, I have to now put forth more masculine energy than you. So for us as men, we have to exert that masculine energy to where she feels like, well, let me take a step back, and now I can be the feminine in me because I know that you can take over. So yeah, I think if it can be toxic from, like I said, two different ways. If the woman does not know how to lead and the woman doesn't know how to follow and the man does not know how to lead. So I'm not
Mm.
going to put it all on the woman at the end of the day. I'm going to also have to put it on us because it's up to us to show you like, man, just relax, just relax. I need you to follow me. But if we don't set that tone, then they're going to have to exert that energy.
Man, you just going right up into my question. So I was gonna ask you, how important do you feel uh feminine and masculine energy is in a relationship? And I asked this question specifically because we've had a conversation about feminine energy.
Yeah.
And in our friend group, my line sisters, we posed the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how high or low do you feel your feminine energy is? So, I mean, there's 16 of us. So
Hmm.
it ranged from a 2, and they said, quote unquote, could be lower sometimes, up to me, I said a 10.
Hmm.
And of course, when we're talking feminine energy, for anybody watching that has not seen that episode, we're not talking about looks and how your makeup and how you dress and all of that stuff. We're talking about the vibe that you give off, like the loving, the pleasant, the um, soft, the easy to talk to, dare I say meek. And meek is not a bad thing. If we read our scripture, it definitely tells us to be meek at heart. But we just were all over the place on the level of feminine energy. And even one of my line sisters' husbands was just like, like you just be too hard sometimes. And even when I was having the conversation with her, I
Hmm.
was just like, you're being hard right now. Like you're
Yeah.
not yelling at me, but the way that you're telling me that you don't want to show feminine energy is like real rough.
Yeah.
And so, do you feel like it's very important for a woman to have a high level of feminine energy? And what does that look like to you?
I think it really just depends. I think it depends on the man per se. I think for me, I don't. I think I'm big on like balance. So I wouldn't say it has to be high, but I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably say about a 6 or a 7. Because I don't, like I said, I don't want you to be too soft, but then again, I don't want you to be like my home, like my partner at the end of the day either. Like my partner in terms of like we sitting there like we be going back and forth, and then you know what I'm saying, like I'm like,
You get a little scared.
yeah. Like, come on, man, we just having a casual conversation. So, like I said, I don't get me wrong. I do like for them to have that balance to say, okay, well, I have a nice balance of feminine energy and masculine energy, but my feminine outweighs my masculine by at least 5 or 10 steps. I mean, five or 6 steps, should I say?
You saying the woman, or you
Yeah,
saying?
the woman. Yeah,
Okay,
the woman. Yeah,
got
the woman.
Okay. No, I think that's a good balance. And I think one of the things we also discussed is the ability to that code switch. That code switch exists in your relationship just as much as it exists in everyday life. Like if
Yeah,
you need me to go into work and be about my business and be hard and get things done, I'm going to do that. But then
yeah,
I'm also able to come home and take that off, because I feel like women don't take off that need to show that masculine energy when they step into their homes.
hmm,
Because we have to be these tough, hard women throughout the day, every day at work. But then we
yeah,
need to come home and take that off and allow our man to step up and be that covering for us, you know?
right.
And so we have to learn how to do that. And I mean, that's just a part of life for sure.
Yeah, that balance is important for me because I think even a little deeper, even from like just how you like the clothes that you wear. I mean, of course, I enjoy a woman that's able to put on dresses, put on high heels, but I also want to see like how well do you wear tennis shoes. That's
Hmm.
important to me, like wearing tennis shoes, like baseball caps, like even like wearing my shirts and like styling like my clothes, stuff like that. That's small, but it's important, like for me per se, because like I said, I'm a very fashionable person and like somebody that I'm married, like I want them to be very fashionable. And like for us, like either we can like go on a date or go to an expensive dinner, or we can just go to the park and throw a football or shoot basketball. Like that's important. That's a real healthy balance that you have to have, because it keeps I think like for a relationship, for a marriage, it keeps that balance to where like you can do, like it doesn't, there's no limitation to what you can do like within that dynamic. Like you can go shoot basketball, you can go to the gun range, you can go to have a candlelight dinner, just different stuff. It allows like that relationship to continuously grow and never get boring, because you know just as well as I know, as soon as a relationship gets boring, that's when problems start.
Absolutely.
A lot of times like those probably like when they start, if you don't identify, if you aren't identifying before they get too bad, then a lot of times you're not able to bounce back and get that relationship back on track. So that, like I say, that balance of feminine energy and masculine energy from the woman's point of view and from her standpoint is very important for the relationship.
For sure. And that applies like in any situation. So, like, whatever your spouse likes, it doesn't even have to be shooting basketball. Whatever it is that they like, you have to have that ability to be a part of that,
Yeah.
for whatever your spouse may be into. Do you feel like there's a disconnect between Black women and Black men right now?
Um, I do. And the reason why I feel that way is because of social media.
Talk.
Social media is very, very toxic. I feel like it's very toxic. And I think, I mean, of course, like when I was younger and I was on social media, I didn't really look at it from that point of view. But as of now, like literally every time something happens with like somebody that's popular, like a rapper or singer, every time something happens, it hits airwaves. It's on social media. And that does nothing but paint a bad picture for black couples. Like it kind of like puts yet another blemish on black love whenever you see a couple that they're no longer together because of this happened. And every time something happens, it's always the man that did something. I mean, true enough, it may be, but there are times to where when the story first hits the airwaves, it's only painting a picture of the black man. It's not saying what the woman did. And then once that happens, then you have family members from the black man coming out and saying, hey, well, the chick, she's not all that either. But it's like a whole bunch of going back and forth. So if there would be a disconnect, the disconnect is because of social media and the way social media kind of paints the picture of black love. But social media, I mean, it does have scenarios to where it paints a beautiful picture of black love. Like anytime you see like a couple that's been together 80 years, 76 years, like those are the pictures that we should see more of on social media. But you have to follow specific pages. Like you'll never see a blog page post that type of black love. It's always gonna be them posting black love to say, okay, well, this is what you shouldn't do. Not realizing like every time you post something negative, you have yet another like black woman or black man that said, dang, do I want to be married now? Because the way that they're painting that picture to say that you can't trust black women, you can't trust black men. But really, like I say, even though there are people that have issues with trust and have issues with gaining trust, you also have those that value that art of trust and that do want to be trusted, that are not being spoken for because there's such negative energy painting a negative picture of black men.
How can one guard themselves from, I mean, because we can't just flat out say don't be on social media because that's not
Mhm.
realistic. So how can someone single who's interested in being married, or even married couples, how can they guard themselves from things like that?
I think about just having like living in your own experiences and having your own experiences, and just making sure that you're learning from every experience, that you do not make the same mistake twice. I think experiences is the biggest thing. So as long as, I mean, even though you have this particular picture that is painted, it's very important to stay positive and like stay grounded in what it is that you want in life. Like if you want to be married, don't allow what you see on social media to change your thoughts. I think there are some people that, or they probably want to be married, but I think their mindset has not completely shifted to this is like their main focus. So once that happens, like for those particular individuals, it may stray them along a little bit more. Whereas if you have somebody that's very focused on getting to that point to where they do want to be married, then it won't change much. But like I say, just kind of staying grounded and staying on the road to the path that you want to get to, and just focus on your goal at the end of the day will kind of keep you sheltered from like the negative energy that comes from social media.
That's beautiful. Living your own experiences. I
Yeah.
love that. And I think, man, that's just powerful to me because I think about number one, I think about how even if I'm being honest, I can look at certain things like, and mine's not necessarily like couples, but mine could be, we love to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll look at a single friend who's out of the country, like literally 3, 4 times a year. And I'm just like, man, we got to get more places. But I
Yeah.
have to realize, like, I'm a whole married woman with a
Mhm.
mortgage, with 2 dogs. Like,
Yeah.
I have all these other things, whereas she's single with one little bitty dog that her mom takes care of when she's out of the country. She's a nurse, she's doing well for herself, like this one specific person I'm thinking about. And I have to always remember, like, we're doing like the best that we can. So us getting out of the country once a year, if that's what we can do right now, like that's
Yeah.
our experience. And I have to be
Right.
grateful for that and not compare myself to somebody who, like, apples to oranges, somebody single, with
Yeah.
living in an apartment, able to just get up and go. It's a
Right.
difference from the things that I have going in my life. So that's something, a great takeaway, is to
Yeah.
live your own experience.
Yeah, you gotta run your own race. I think that was one of the biggest things that I've learned. Is just being able to like run your own race. The thing is, nobody can run your race for you, and nobody knows what you're racing for. So
Yeah.
as long as you running your own race at your pace, then you'll be all right. Can't focus on nobody else's race because once you do that, then you'll get off the course that you're supposed to be on.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Okay, so last question. What value do you feel like marriage would bring to your life?
Hmm. Um, I would probably say the ultimate happiness. Because I think so. I think for my 36 years of life, I've been able to experience a lot. From being able to run a business, being able to go to college, being able to be Greek, just a lot of different things. But I think the last stage of my life, well, I ain't gonna say the last stage, but the stage that I have yet to experience is like being married and having kids. So I think it would be the ultimate happiness because that's the only thing that I have not experienced. Like I said, I've been able to. Both of my parents are in my life. Like I said, I've been able to be around them my 36 years of life and just being happy that they're still here, being around them. So yeah, I would say probably the ultimate happiness. Like once I get to that point where I'm married and I can like have the same person in my life every day, then we get to the point where we have kids. For me, it's just kind of like at that point, like life just coasts at that point. So yeah, if I was to say one word without rambling, I would say the ultimate happiness.
That's awesome. Well, LaRon, thank you so much for joining the Black Millennial Wife today.
Oh, no
I
problem.
hope that all those that come in contact with this video have gotten something out of it, whether you're single, engaged, married. I feel like there were some great things that we discussed that could benefit anybody who comes across this video. So again, if you are interested in any suit accessories, fashion, all of that good stuff, ideas. I know I'm a big person to go on Pinterest and be like, date night outfit just to look.
Yeah.
Please go follow. What's your Instagram handle?
So my business is Dapper_Sense. And my personal is the Dapper Gent underscore one.
Awesome. All right. So we'll put those in the link down below. Thank you, LaRon, for joining us again. We really, truly appreciate it and wish you all of the best.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Black Millennial Wife. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for our next episode next Friday. Bye.